Hello and welcome back to Shed Manufacturing. And in this big wheelbarrow full of parts, we have just about everything we need to get this Lincoln onto the ground. So in here we have tubular front control arms, both lower and upper, and we have a leaf spring delete, which is actually more of a 4-link conversion, both of which very excited about. So let's get going. We're going to pull the wheels off, clean up everything underneath, and start chassis blacking, and then get this bolted in. Follow along. So this is the end of day one. This is sort of the after action report. We have all of the front suspension pulled out and all of the rear suspension pulled out. The rear end is over in the corner of the shed over there, and everything that has to go in for the air ride hasn't yet. We just have these wheels propped up just so we can have a quick look at what it might look like later. Next up in order of operations is we're going to strip all of the undercoat from this car, because this car from factory, it seems, was given the undercoat treatment with the black tar-like substance, and that did an incredible job of preserving the underside of this car. If you're lucky, you can pick some of it off with your fingernail, and a little sheet will fall off, and you'll just see bright red, brand new paint. So we really lucked out on this. I don't know how many colors this car has been, but I'm pretty sure from the factory it was red. So we'll be stripping off all of that undercoat, re-undercoating it with our chassis black that we have, and then we'll be reinstalling all of, well, not reinstalling, we'll be installing for the first time all of the conversion stuff to make us go air ride and super low. The ride height that we have right now, I say ride height, the shell height is like 4 or 5 inches off the ground, so this could potentially be more or less what this car looks like at drive height while we're cruising down the road, which I'm pretty pleased about. Yeah, I'm all right with that. Well, as far as a status report goes, I think that's all I got for you. Okay, so I've cleaned up and taken a break, and it's second day working on the Lincoln with the air ride system. And as much as I'd like to just look at it, I think I actually have to do some of the hard work now. What we're going to get done is get some of these bits and pieces in the wheelbarrow fitted, but to do that I have to do a lot of wire wheeling. I'm just going to time lapse all of that because it's boring to watch. I'll pick it up in the air, move the wire wheels back over to the side of the shed where they belong, and we'll get into it. So I figured I'd give you a quick little update. Things kind of went outside of what I was trying to do. I got a little scope creep. So this is a dent that was bondoed over pretty good, as well as this guy. If I give you a little profile, you might be able to see it. But couple little rust holes right here as well, and I figured while I was going to go into here, I would go ahead and pull the gas tank that was in right there. All of this metal is in incredible shape. I did a quick little wire wheel right on this this little landing pad right here, and everything's in incredible shape. Like to the point where when I went to pull the bolts out right here for the leaf springs, they had been greased. Someone kind of cared about this thing, and that's pretty rad. At least enough to make sure that my life was a little easier. So I got the gas tank pulled and went ahead and drained it out, and yeah, I'll show you what we got. That's gas in that pot right there. There's the gas tank. Yeah, it doesn't smell great, and it looked like red wine coming out of the tank. It was pretty super gross. So I'll get that cleaned up and get that ready for diesel for that little guy. All right. Oh, right then, bit of an update. So we got a lot of the rear wheel wells wire wheeled out. We got the interior of the driver's side wire wheeled, and discovered a couple rust patches up in it. I discovered a few little rust holes in the back of the passenger floor, and I think that's mostly it. Oh, there was another little rust hole up at the top of this fender liner. So that'll have to get taken care of. Again, nothing too major. All of the bones, like the main frame rail that runs through this unibody, rock solid, no rust on anything really. Got a lot of this down to bare metal. I'll have to go back through with a smaller air-powered wire wheel to get the small nooks and crannies in the corners done. But I am thrilled with how well this is going together, or how well this will be going together. I may get some seam sealer because some of these gaps are a lot bigger than I sort of anticipated them being, and I don't want any water to get in between those layers of steel and cause issues for me down the road. So the spring perches and upper control arm mounts, or no, lower control arm mounts, bolt into the old leaf spring perches up here, and I'll have the airbag hanging out right there. Test fit those all fit beautifully. So again, we got to clean this up just a smidge more now that it's more or less down to bare metal. I went ahead and dropped the tank because a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to be able to get behind it and clean that up, so that way we can chassis black that and get that all cured and sealed. But also I wanted to drain the fuel out of it because we're doing a fuel change. It's no longer going to be a gasoline car, it's going to be a diesel car. So I went ahead and drained that out, and we'll probably wind up replacing the fuel level sensor in it. And luckily, because of the type of diesel engine we have, we don't need a lift pump. So there'll be minimal modifications that I have to do to the tank, other than the make sure that the level sensor works and all that really. I think everything else plumbing wise can stay because we still get a return line. It's just a different size feed. Yeah, I cannot express how pleased I am with the structural rigidity of a car that's this old and that was this cheap. So yeah, I'll get back to it and I'll get you with another update. Okay, well, it's another day in the shed, well, another night. I've had to transition into working at night because it's just been so incredibly hot in the summer recently. So what we got is the rear end all wire wheeled down on this, and because of the amount of mess that it created when I did that, I'm going to go ahead and start wire wheeling the front. So that way when I have everything all nice and clean and installed, it won't start interfering with each other by making just mountains of dust get everywhere where I've got nice new paint and new parts. And so a little bit of a change in our attack, but more or less all this stuff had to get done in the first place. I'll time lapse it because wire wheeling is boring. Hello, welcome to the engine bay. So for the last couple days I've been doing a lot of wire wheeling and trying to clean up all of the rust and the paint and the old coatings that were put under here to help seal it and seal away all the moisture and the salt and whatnot. And for the most part they did a really good job. There's not a whole lot of rust on the car. But as I've been getting into this, I've been realizing how big a job wire wheeling the underside of the car is. And so my initial plan to do the back, coat it, and then move to the middle and coat it, and then move to the front and coat it, isn't going to work so great. So instead of this being like a front, middle, back process, I'm leaning more towards doing the whole thing sort of all at once and getting a good foundation to work off. And obviously I'll be able to cut through and grind and modify what I have, but I don't want to have to recoat around things that I've installed already. A couple things that I've been noticing while I've been under here is, I guess in 1966 they must have had some sort of argon shortage because all of the welds here and all over the car are really porous and kind of shoddy. It looks almost like I did them. So what I'm probably going to do is dig into these welds and a lot of the other welds around here that hold the panels together and redo some of them to make them, if not just a little more aesthetically appealing. Whew. I'll try and make them a touch more structural if possible. Like I get it, right? Like the car's gotten to this point with them. But there's a bunch of stuff like the panel gaps between a lot of the panels, like where two pieces of metal come to butt weld. There's like a little seam in there that pops up in a lot of spots. So part of me wants to put little slits in that, hammer those flat and re-weld those. I'm not sure how deep into this I should go and how much I should just seam seal and then deal with later, you know. Or not at all, deal with it by seam sealing it. Like the steel is there and it is welded together. Should I just squeeze a bunch of seam sealer in there and then make it all happen? There's a couple of bits and pieces like that I want to hash out and sort of figure out before I really commit to it. I have started cutting out some of the rust, like the panel right here, which was the battery box. Battery's going to move to the back. I don't like batteries in engine bays, for weight distribution, not that it's a thing on this isn't a performance car by any metric. but the heat cycles that an engine puts on a battery kills the lifespan of it. I have a bunch of cars that have had batteries in them for significantly longer than they're rated for, like 5-6 years. But anywho, I'm not sure we'll be able to get to actually installing suspension in this video. I think just cleaning the chassis and painting the underside is going to be pretty much a video on its own. Don't worry, I will get this thing on 20s. Right then, back to work. Okay, before I move on to the next step, I should probably explain what I'm actually doing here. So this kit was designed by CP Chassis, or CB, one of those, to be a bolt-in kit, and it's a really good kit. But the only issue I really have with it is their solution for affixing this plate, which has the shock brackets and also the inner or upper and inner triangulated 4-link mounts. So that this plate will see a lot of force as you get on and off the gas because it wants to wrap the axle backwards and forwards. And their solution, which was sort of the only solution they have for a bolt-on application, so I'm not going to give them too much flack for it, was to drill into this sheet metal, which is quite thick to be honest, and then to install riv nuts. And I love riv nuts. They're a fantastic solution for fixing small boxes, covers, sheet metal to sheet metal stuff. But the riv nut, I'll show you here, has a bunch of these knurls around the side, and it goes into the sheet metal up to this flange, and you tighten it and it compresses. The threads are in this end, and it compresses to bring it down onto this shoulder, sort of flaring it out at the back. And so it makes a pretty secure mount for fairly small things, this and that. And my issue with the large diameter riv nut into this sheet metal is this sheet metal is actually quite thick, and as a result the area where it should be squishing over, it doesn't really have that opportunity, and instead it just sort of compacts onto itself and doesn't flare out onto the back good enough. I really don't want this thing to come unglued while I'm reefing on it down the highway, so I remembered that I own a welder, so I got the flap disc out, got a bunch of the metal down, or the paint off down to bare metal, and I did that on the car side and on the flange side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some big plug welds and go ahead and get it welded in. I'll measure it, I'll make sure it's in the middle first, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug weld to get it going, and then we're going to do quite a bit of seam welding around the outside. Then it'll get hit with seam sealer and it'll be like it was there from factory. as soon as I got the new control arms slid into place, I realized how crusty the old spindles and hubs looked. So they got stripped, powder coated and easy bake ovened, ready for install.